I'm James Halliday, or Substack on GitHub, and I'm going to talk about dnode, which makes RPC awesome. So, as I said, easy as cake with dnode. You can just string together your processes like nothing. You just hack up a server here, require dnode, and then just call it. It's a function. You can define methods on it. You can define constructors. The cool thing is you can define functions in your dnode server, and then those functions can be called by clients that connect. So, like here we have just a simple Zing function that has two parameters, n and a callback, and then when we get a request in, we just call that callback with n times 100 and listen on port 5000. And here's a client that makes use of that server, so it just goes dnode.connect port 5000 and it gets this remote object, and you can call the server function, which was Zing, as we just saw, and it gives it some parameters, and you just get the callback. And these processes can be living on different servers or the same server. It really doesn't matter because dnode just figures all that out, makes it all work. So yeah, no schemas, none of that bullshit about XML, no like making your own silly JSON thing that's going to route your asynchronous callbacks to where you need in your program. You can just pass a function directly, and it makes it so much simpler. So here's these two client and server side by side, servers on the top, and I'm just going to go through kind of what happens when you make a remote function call with dnode. So, oh goodness, that's supposed to be red. I don't know what's up with that. Anyways, so here we call the Zing function. We give it 66 as the n parameter. Okay, this one's good. And then we give it this callback here that has just a console.log. Now, in dnode, the functions execute on the sides that they're defined on. So this console.log is going to execute on the client because that's where you've run the program. It's not like sending around a serialized toString of a function or something silly like that. It actually sends references. So that callback gets passed into the function body, and then the n also to computer results that we get back at the client just as a parameter directly, exactly like as if all of this was running locally, except you don't get return values because that's not very asynchronous, And then you can just print it like this. So you just launch your server, you launch your client, and you get your result back. It's very simple, very, very easy to get started building this stuff. And so you can sort of incrementally build these awesome programs like I have here, but it might be a little bit sketchy getting it entirely working with this network. So fuck yeah, callbacks. So you can actually take this code, this sort of server-client TCP streams, like I just mentioned in that example, and just throw it up on the server with exactly the same code, except, okay, here in the first 4 lines, we've got a web server. And then instead of server.listen 5000, we just fucking server.listen app, and it's a web app, and it just knows how to make that work with Socket.io. So, yeah, and you can actually do both, too. So you can, like, server.listen app and server.listen on 5000, and that will, like, host a web server and have your TCP server. So you can have, like, your hacky back-end code that, like, connects to the TCP thing, and you can have your nice fancy front-end that connects to your web server. And it's the same methods for both. So, like, if you remember the client we just wrapped up, this is basically the equivalent in browser form. So just some basic HTML. You just throw down a script tag, and dnode makes this /dnode.js available for you automatically. So you don't have to really worry about messing with like deploying client source. But anyways, you just pass in your 66 parameter, and you pass in your callback, and you get back the n value. And if you go to the browser, that's what you see. Pretty much exactly like the client. I mean, it's exactly the same sort of code, except for instead of console.log, we have, inner HTML thing, because I'm not using jQuery for simplicity here. Also, dnode works awesomely with Browserify. Actually, behind the scenes, it's wrapping the client source at like /dnode.js, the browser side version of dnode that it needs to do this crazy trickery with Browserify already. But you can also use it explicitly. Browserify is a browser version of require. So you can like load up npm modules and craziness like that and bundle everything. But here's just an example of that. You can just require dnode in your little Browserify line there as a middleware. And then the code becomes even nicer because it's even more like what you would write on the server. Because now var dnode equals require dnode. And you just, you know, throw in a window.onload and it's like even cooler. So basically what's going on here is you've got your main dnode constructor, and this can take either like just an object with, you know, keys and values. You can pass attributes as well as functions, and or you can use it like in constructor form, like I've got here up on the bottom. It's basically just like if you call new and a function, it does the same sort of trick where like there's this implicit return at the end that returns to this object. So makes it a really compelling use case because you can just go this dot whatever, and you can have access to the remote object, which is the first callback parameter, and the connection object, which you can do cool stuff with, like listening for different kinds of events that happen, and like ending a client's connection too. Right, one thing that's a little bit tricky, I think, for newcomers is remote isn't always populated. So, because each side sort of needs to call the other's constructor to figure out what methods it has. And so, like, something's got to give there. You can't, like, know about it before you get it from the other side. You get deadlocked. So, you can do use the connection object on ready to get that event. Or if you call connect, you get that stuff. So, the other way to connect with dnode is to call the .connect and .listen. You could pass a callback to that. I've tried really hard to make dnode just crazy usable, and so you can just throw frickin' ports or host names or callbacks at these constructors in any order, and dnode just figures out what you probably, you know, mean by it. I guess that's not always it's not for everyone, but I think in this case it really works because you can just, you know, not have to worry about argument order. And in the callback, of course, you get the remote and the connection. That's a pretty consistent convention throughout dnode. I mean, there's only just that callback and then the constructor callback. And then for convenience even further, you can just do like dnode.connect instead of actually, you know, if you don't even have a constructor or anything that you want to host to either side, you could just call that. So dnode does callbacks really, I guess, pleasantly surprisingly. Something like this would actually work because it's not just that dnode is looking in an object or, you know, the results of a constructor for functions. It's actually looking for functions whenever you call a function in one of those callbacks that you supplied in the first place. So here we have like 3 layers of indirection, and you can just go all the way all the way with this. It's actually entirely recursive. So you can pass functions around like crazy, which is great if you're making these complicated stateful applications where you sort of need data to be in every which place throughout your interface. Sort of unavoidable, so dnode makes that possible at least. I mean, it might not be pretty, but you can fix that later. Also, yeah, that's great. Yeah, so dnode will ruthlessly hunt down your callbacks too, no matter how deeply you nest them, no matter how many times you recurse. Like here's just a function call, and you can nest them however you want, and that includes when you set up like constructors and object definitions, or if you just call functions remotely. You can just pass around data however you like, and it can have functions wherever pretty much, except in the prototype chain because that's icky and I don't want to mess with that. And even in client definitions, so your clients can actually host up methods that they want the server to see as sort of an entry point into this whole negotiation. So here's some awesome examples of stuff that uses dnode in the wild. On my startup, Browserling, we use this a lot. I was going to do a quick demo, but network's kind of shit for that. But basically, it lets you do like cross-browser testing in your browser, so you can actually use like IE or Safari or something from this canvas element, and it's all on the back end done with, like, on the back end and the front end, dnode ties everything together. Another awesome thing that Marak over here and his buddies at Nojitsu wrote up was Json Loops. It's this awesome sequencer thing that we might or may not use here in a bit. And like crazy games and shit, and like upload progress bars. It's great for that sort of stuff where you sort of have like a job maybe, and you don't want to periodically pull it for updates or anything, or make some hacky JSON protocol to sort of marshal data around. So dnode is great for that stuff. Also, you can use dnode in Ruby. I've got like a little library up on GitHub that lets you use the dnode protocol, so you can like tie together Node.js processes and Ruby processes. And the same thing for Perl. And some crazy fool even wrote a Java implementation. I have not tried it. I don't know how it works, but it's out there, so it's getting pretty awesome. And here's it up on GitHub. You should definitely check it out. And now, if everything goes well, that's the end of the slides. But let's see, we've got about 15 minutes, so hopefully we can, oh, please connect.
I just decided to walk up here. I'm not part of the talk.
No. Oh, well, I guess we could just read it off my lap. Oh, yes, it works. Haha, okay.
I'll put MP3 on this guy. We got sound? Cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, let's see, make this big. How do you make it big? Okay. Big. So here I've got this rap battle program. You can check it out on GitHub, actually. It's up there right now. So basically it's just a dnode server here. And we've got, it uses, Browserify and everything. And if we can scroll, I don't know how to scroll correctly on this Mac, but yeah, here we go. Here's the server part, dnode function, and you get your client handle and your connection handle. And you can just define these functions. Here's a watch function. Here's a wrap function that takes a callback and like a challenge callback. So you can mix and match. And you just basically write your code pretty much like you'd write it in Node anyways if everything was just living in a single process. But callbacks can like be defined on the browser or be defined on entirely separate processes, maybe on entirely separate servers. And so we can just straight up call these functions. Like here I have it actually running. I'll just real quick do some live coding in the REPL here. So we can just require dnode, require event emitter, require events.event emitter. Okay, and now just dnode.connect. I've got this service running on port 8081. And we get a handle to the remote object. And why don't we just like console.dir that shit? Oh yeah. And then it's done some scrolly weird thing. And I'll just do undefined because I don't care about the result. Oh no, connection refused. Oh right, because I had the wrong port, I think. No, that should.
Started up, yeah.
Yeah, well it's running, I think. Oh no, it's not start. That would be why. Okay, so let's actually start the thing. And so we've just got a server. Okay, network is being slow. So we've got these clients that are these wrap combatants, and I wrote this crazy Markov freestyle thing like in the past couple of days. So basically with that we can like just connect to our server process and have this freestyle handle going here where, like, here's the bulk of it. So basically generate wrap responses to when it's our turn, basically, from the server. So I'll fire up one of these for me. Oh, and this actually takes a bit to start up. So it prints out ready when it's ready. And then let's fire up Chrome real quick.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Should be good to go.
Okay. Oh, shit. So if we go to 10.205.3.133.8080. Shit. Stupid Mac. I hate Macs, by the way. That's why I get this ThinkPad. Oh, I did that wrong. Okay, so this is the web version, basically, of this wrap program. I guess I can, while these are loading, okay, they're both ready. So basically what the web app is doing isn't much more complicated than this. This is like a command line version of it. It basically registers an event, it creates an event emitter and like binds the emit function to this remote.watch thing, so it can sort of, like an ad hoc pub sub thing. You can just hack these up like nothing in dnode because it's that modular and flexible. So go back to Chrome real quick. Oh yeah. So we're gonna have a little rap battle for you here. It's a Markov randomly generated rhyming dnode based rap battle. So
Put MP3 on, yeah?
yeah, can you put that on real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So Marak here is gonna help me out with this.
I think I know a good MP3 to use.
Oh yeah.
Just make sure your volume is at 3/4.
Okay.
3 more.
Well, I'm not hearing anything now. It's going to go through.
Alright, so it prompts me for a password actually. That's something crazy hacked in. Understand then that multiple. Okay, cool.
Behave packages, node and npm pool. Will publish, yeah, my app was going to be a native Node.js issue.
This either very well. They don't actually work. Tissue. Function is the queue. The first one in cookie jar. From where?
A single GUI from with a Moki kit, yeah, I was playing hair.
Yeah.
That they hard to find now, haven't answered my question.
Last. Elegant solution. Is there more action? The awesome thing about dnode is we can at runtime bring in more people to this rap battle, just because it's freestyle like that. So we're bringing Isaac here. It might take a bit though. Actually update in real time. Oh yeah, Isaacs is in the house now. Come on up.
Are there any docs on why it's not easy?
Come back, places as food bars, some squeezy.
You use the could air. What about entities, Sweezy? Middleware compatibility out of whack.
Underlying a simple stringed way to pass a hack.
Then your index.j, but it's just creating folders with black.
So what do you guys think? I got some more music. We could bring on some more. I think maybe Felix G, we got him.
And all this data is coming from the Node.js IRC room. That's how we're constructing this.
Yeah, it's weighted markup and really contrived design. It's tacked on. It's all up on GitHub. Check it out. It's on my profile / rap channel.
Like, bar comes back and bar in some places.
It only takes 2 args. Type in listener places.
Would be figured it. Guess it could just braces.
I would if my library was like fully functioning. The only interest in the same thing I am try.
To README encoding, ActWork only supports UTF-8 PRI.
Problem with that installs updating a -G package size.
Of Seek, with the help of one of mine used to.
Error? I mean, no end read installed. Return why might view.
Though getting them rhymes talking about you. The question just wanted heads up. Give you a VU.
So this is the other really cool thing about Dnode. We can actually like drop people in real time. So after this battle, I like drop somebody.
Updates through it, but when it's outputting stuff with -DDD now.
Like this, no test, simple test.
Yo, this goes out to all my peeps in the Node.js IRC room, just keeping it real 24/7. Oh.
Let's drop some folks. So it's awesome. Okay, we'll drop. Okay, we'll drop Isaac's. But check it. We'll bring, I saw Jim. Where'd he go? Yeah, he's scared. Yeah, so I just dropped Isaac's there from the battle. Eliminated. And now we see he's not in the list anymore. So let's do another round here. Oh no. Might be some lag on our network. Oh wait, I gotta click it. Yeah, these are randomly generated on the fly, so. Oh, it looks like we might be out of network here. Yeah, I guess. Pretty much out of time in here. So I guess, yeah. So you guys can check that out on GitHub, or I guess we got time for like a few questions maybe.
And we're
So-
accepting rap battles, so
Yeah,
just
yeah.
let us know.
Oh, the Now.js question. Oh yeah, I was expecting this. So right, Now.js is this new sort of real-time project based on Socket.io. It's pretty similar. Now.js is really new, and it's got this sort of replication thing with like Harmony proxies and like a set interval to check. So the idea with Now.js is you sort of add and delete items on the fly, and they propagate. But Dnode is not about that at all. It's about just you pass an object or a constructor, and that's just how it goes. And to get this sort of advanced functionality, you use callbacks, and you use like event streams on top of callbacks. So, and then Dnode also works in frickin' Ruby and Perl and Java, and it works on the browser or the back end. So, yeah, Marak.
So you can use Dnode to do server-to-server, like IPC type stuff, right?
So yeah, Marak just asked if you can use like just pure server-to-server like TCP connections. Absolutely, you can do that. That's actually like what I wrote it for originally, and then I sort of just said, hey, why not Socket.io? That'd be pretty sweet. And so, yeah. Felix.
Does it work cross-domain?
Does it work cross-domain? That's all really dependent, I guess, for browser stuff. That's all really dependent on how you configure socket.io. You can pass in socket.io options directly if you want to mess with all that. I got no idea how any of that works, but it's probably possible. But I didn't really mess with that. Yeah. Okay, no more questions then? Anybody? That's cool. Just about used up all our time. So you can check out Dnode yourself at github.com/Substack Dnode. Yeah.